voice of Franklin, New Hampshire. This is brought to you by the Franklin Communications Group, which is a nonpartisan, volunteer-powered network bringing local news and community stories to your ears. Subscribe to stay informed, share to keep your neighbors in the know, and if you've got news to share, the contact details are in the show notes. Now, here's what's happening in Franklin. Welcome, everybody, to the Trestle Times Talks podcast. I am your unplanned host for the day. Delaney Carrier was the intended host, and he happened to have some glitches. So today we have two guests. This is our first episode with two guests. We have our school board chair, Liz. Yes.
Hello.
And we have our Franklin State Rep, Bryan Morse. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
So I am doing this a little offhand. I'm sure Delaney would have been much more prepared, but we're going to have some conversations about what's going on with schools in Franklin, in our greater community. So I guess what's going to happen is it's going to be like a question and subject, and we're going to have a left, right, no pun intended, answer conversation queue. That sound good, guys?
Sounds good.
It'll be like around the horn, okay? The first topic is the cost of education. How does the cost of public education actually break down between federal, state, and municipal levels? Liz.
Sure. Thanks. This is actually super interesting, and I don't think a ton of people know this, so I love that we're talking about this. I feel like the super short answer is that according to our Constitution, the state is supposed to provide and fund an adequate education. So the state provides what it calls adequacy aid, which is a dollar amount. The New Hampshire Supreme Court says that number should be $7,356. Currently, it's $4,182. But the average cost per pupil in the state of New Hampshire is $23,000. So what's happening is, so that level's kind of breaking down, and the cost is kind of going to local taxpayers through property taxes. And so local taxpayers and municipalities are covering around 70 to 80% of those costs. And what's kind of a bummer is that the budget that just got passed kind of looks like there are some increases. And while the special ed reimbursement floor did get raised to 80%, which was awesome, most things increased by like 2.5%, which isn't going to keep up with inflation. And also because the EFAs got expanded and the Education Trust Fund kind of got weakened. Overall, we're kind of in a similar dire position. So what happens then is the big local property values, municipalities have to kind of cover these costs. And we've run into another fun issue in Franklin where the average school district municipal split in New Hampshire is 62% schools, 38% municipal. But in Franklin, it's almost the exact opposite. 35% schools, 65% municipal. Add to that, the federal level, what they contribute is mostly variable funding, and it's inconsistent. So while we did get $7.2 million in grants last year, we just lost over $250,000 in a grant that got taken away. But because we're already running so low on funds, because the actual cost doesn't match with what we're being given, we still have to put positions in there. So the federal funding is kind of inconsistent. The state funding isn't really enough. And so local taxpayers and municipalities are left to kind of pick up that
cover
slack.
The cost. Okay. Yeah. All right. Bryan, do you have anything that you'd like to add? Any questions or things that you think maybe your constituents would want to know?
Yeah, so just to go over the federal grant that got removed, to my knowledge, now correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, that had to do with anti-terrorism, but it was being used to pay for like DEI climate specialists, which has been both federally and state banned at this point. So is that, like, I haven't gotten a clear answer from Legallo or any of the school board members yet. So I'm still waiting to find out if that is in fact the reason for it getting removed, which was what there were two climate specialists, upwards of 500,000, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm trying to kind of piece everything together as I'm going through.
Yeah, so
I haven't been
there
given
weren't
the correct answers yet. That's why I'm
yeah
asking.
there weren't specifics in the letter. It was that the reason given was that the former administration that put it into place didn't align with the current administration, and so they were just kind of blanket removing it. There was nothing specific to Franklin. It was more of just a blanket, we're not doing this because we don't want to do it anymore. And our climate specialists do not combine to make $500,000.
Yeah, I kind of figured when the Gallo mentioned that there was 600 grand put into climate specialists for the 3 schools. I was like, well, wait a minute, that's a little high. There's something.
Yeah, that was for the whole grant.
And what else? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the state adequacy aid. So the legislator and the judicial branch have always been having an issue ever since Claremont with deciding who is in charge of the adequacy funding. Per Constitution, it's the legislative branch. The judicial branch has no say or control over it, which is why even in their ruling, they pretty much stated, well, we can't do anything about it, but this is what we say it should be. Now, we've been discussing this, I mean, the past 8 months since I've been in office here, we've been discussing the different adequacy and what to increase it to. So far, it's looking like it's going to be about 75 is what they're coming down to. Now, I was told in my little education caucus that they raised it to about 75. I'm just trying to get clarification because I haven't actually seen the number in person. We did pass it within the budget, and I have about 300 pages that I've been slowly trying to go through. I mean, when we had the budget, it was, every little thing. I was going through everything at once, trying to make sure, that's how I found we had a full DEI ban across the state, and any school that's still participating will immediately get defunded. So there's little things here and there that I kind of picked up. As to the adequacy aid increase, I'm kind of happy that it should be around 72. I mean, hell, I would like to see higher if I could. But at the same time, it's, there's certain things I want to fix in the schools before I kind of push to make that happen. So there's like little things that I want to come to middle ground with. It's a process. It's a process.
For sure. On here, it talks about our commitment to special education in Franklin. As I understand it, we have an unusually high amount of special education students. So how do we deal with the rising education costs and populations?
Is it around 60%, 64% special needs and IEP services?
We're right around 50.
50.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you guys know what is more common? Would it be more like 30?
Well, I think the state average is somewhere between 23 and 30. 23.
Yeah. So to give people an idea as to how high that is, and how do we currently fund that? The special education, do we send that out? Is it in-house?
So there are a couple of layers. So the average New Hampshire student who doesn't receive special education services, they're around $23,000 to fund. A student who has an IEP, the average additional cost is around $31,000 on top of that. So right now, it's kind of following a similar pattern where there's special education adequacy aid, there's federal aid, there's some Medicaid reimbursements. All of the state and federal funding for special education adds up to around 16%. And so local property taxes are, again, about 82, 83% of that. And so we can talk about that all we want, but what I really like about Franklin is that unlike private and charter schools, we in the public schools are committed to providing a quality education for all of our students, including those with special needs. And so we provide the services. We do data tracking. We're compliant with all the laws. And so what we're looking at to kind of help this along is we right now have to contract out for specialists. And so then you have to pay those additional fees to go through the contracting services. And so what we're trying to do is, on the one hand, get people just to be employees, district employees. And also we're looking into a special education consortium, which is basically a group of, I think 7 or 9 districts. We want to get together and share costs because we all need specialists, but they're not full-time in all the districts. And so if we can be like, okay, you spend half a day here and then you go over to Winnisquam, if we can do that, we can kind of split the costs and the students are still getting what they need, but we're sharing the cost. So that's what we're hoping to do, because we really do, educating every child is important. And there are a lot of reasons why the numbers are high, but the fact is that it's our responsibility to take care of these students. And that's what we want to do.
So I completely agree
Brian,
with that.
go ahead. Yeah.
So I completely agree with that. And me and Delaney were discussing, and I'm still waiting to hear from Dan Legala. We're trying to coordinate time for a meeting and whatnot about the centralized location for just special needs services to be provided. So there would still be classroom integration, but during the time that they would have like these special services, they would be transported to this location, services provided, then back to classroom integration. I'm being met with a lot of opposition, especially from like the Special Education Advisory Council within the State House. So they do not want anything other than full-time classroom integration and services provided within the classroom. So it's trying to find that kind of middle ground. And I'm getting opposition even on my side of the aisle with even the suggestion of, hey, why don't we pursue this and do like a trial and error? So I'm still willing to move forward with it. I mean, I love the idea, especially if it's going to drop, a couple $1 million from local SAU's budget. I mean, where do you think that money could go? Teachers, for one, which is my damn priority. And then two, we could even put it back in the general fund and put it into fixing some roads.
Because we are backwards, like Liz previously said. I think it also depends to what the special needs is. That's a pretty broad term from a general, like I don't even have kids, but it's a pretty general. I mean, special needs could be physical, they can be mental, they can be all kinds of things. But I do like the idea of maybe you could have a classroom with the special needs that require the same type of teaching together. So I don't know if that works for those special needs.
Pedagogically speaking, that's not best practice, but the cost sharing would be excellent because so like the specialist would still be like full inclusion is data and research wise the best way to go for students to help the kiddos learn, but they're not the specialists unless you have a one-on-one full-time para. Like the specialists aren't really spending 100% of their time with one student, and so they can hop and pop around, and we can still get reap those financial benefits, and hopefully pair teachers.
And it would be interesting to see if other schools or school districts have tried this anywhere nationwide to see how it worked out for them too, as opposed to just being the first ones to do it, right? Yeah. So on to our next topic. We have public schools versus other options. So how is Franklin community impacted by its children not attending our public schools? And how is Franklin going to be impacted by enrollment? These are tied together, so I'm kind of asking them as one thing. I can remind you two going along if you're like, what's the question again? Happy to repeat it. Liz, go ahead.
Sure. So the boring side. So we're impacted because we have fixed costs and small operating margins, which is annoying MBA talk. So essentially, the more students you have, the more money you get. We tend to have a lower population of students. But what doesn't change is we still have to keep our schools running. The facilities have to be open. So we have fixed costs that we need to cover that we use the state and federal aid in addition to our local taxpayer funding to cover. So the more students we have, the more money we have in order to actually cover those costs. Every student that we lose we lose that $4,100 of current adequacy aid. And so every student that we lose in the district increases the cost of instruction per pupil because we just have fewer students. So we feel every loss, particularly because we're not in Manchester. We don't have thousands and thousands of students. So what we want to do is really focus on fostering collaboration and connection with the community and all it has to offer. Internships, we've done so much with project-based learning, getting our kids through getting them into the community, partnering, workforce partnerships. Really, it's important for us to kind of stand out and make Franklin a place where people want to be because Franklin's been open enrollment for a while. It's a little fun fact. And we have dealt with a higher transient population in the past. So this isn't completely new. but losing students could make costs higher. And so we're looking into what's called the Lakes Region Consortium, another consortium. But this one would be kind of an open student transfer. So based on what districts specialize in, students would go to those districts for those classes. So it's another innovative way that we're trying to just keep things going. And so we have our partnership with Watts, we have our project-based learning. Hopefully City Hall continues getting fixed, and we can once again have our renowned theater group, and students can come for that because we were really well known for that. And so that way students will want to come to our schools. So it would kind of help offset that and really kind of get everybody to see the great things that Franklin has and kind of just keep us on par with everyone else.
That would be good to wrap it all together with our opera house. Just for those of you that don't know about fixed costs, it's just the operating costs, like for the building, that don't change no matter how many students attend or not. You have 5 kids in a classroom, it's still going to cost the same amount to pay for the lights or the air conditioning and that sort of thing. Just so you guys have an idea, those fixed costs don't change. So the more students we have, the more money you would have for the budget. Okay, Bryan, now it's your turn to chat about it.
All right, so just a couple things. I know it was mentioned that adequacy around like 4,100 is kind of like, seems like that's the baseline that we're going off of for the state funding, but the numbers that I'm getting from the DOE average out to about 13,000 per student due to all the special needs and added costs that they receive, like free and reduced meals and everything on top. So that 4,100 is just the base. And then there's additional money that keeps adding to that bucket that the state provides to the local district. So just for anyone who didn't really understand that, maybe now they have a better understanding. And I can provide the breakdown. I have a file cabinet that is filled with like all 1,200 bills that we had this year. I just got to go through and I can find the actual adequacy formula because I still have like 3 or 4 copies of it. Let's see, just reread the question so I can get the rest of this here. Frequently impacted by children not attending public schools. So if we're talking about people, let's say, exiting the public school system to go to charter schools or private schools or even take an EFA or go homeschool, to me, that's kind of their parents' choice and their choice, depending on what type of education they're receiving. You know, if they're receiving subpar education and another district is providing a better education, then I don't see why one's child should suffer while other ones succeed. That's kind of like my big thing. And I know we're going to go in detail in a few as to my basis behind all of it. So I'll kind of keep that short. But as to operating costs, you have the total, like what Franklin needs for all 3 schools, operating costs, the fixed costs, the total number, everything else being minutia. Do we have any info on that? Because once again, I've been asking these questions, but I'm being met with, they're never going to tell me the answers until the money is spent. This coming from one of your school board members as well.
Yeah, so our annual report has it's kind of like it has a condensed version of the budget. So we have our revenues and expenditures. Yeah, the annual report has a lot of good information.
Yeah, it has a lot of good information, but I can't find anything about the average fixed costs. Like, you know, you're talking about operating costs when it comes to keeping the building operational. I'm going to guess and say that, you know, that's lighting, that's heating, that's cooling, that's the general staff, you know, janitors, et cetera. That might even include, like, let's say the principal's office and the teachers. Is that correct?
I mean, they would be building functionality. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe the teachers wouldn't be a part of that then. It's just, it wasn't clear in the budget. I wasn't able to gather that info and get an actual like number, because I've been trying to go through and see if I can help you guys save some money, but you know, I'm being met with, once again, a whole lot of opposition. Like, I'm like, hey, this might not be worth a couple $100,000. And then I'm being met with, well, who cares? You know, it's not your problem. It's really hard because I'm trying to be so helpful in this. It's, you know, hopefully maybe after this, me and you could work together and I can help kind of see if we can, you know, make some changes in the positive light. I mean,
since it is a public school, not only the budget, but to also the costs and everything, is all of that, the retrospective, is all of that public information as well somewhere?
Yes and no. So it is public on what they expect to spend, but we're not given the actual itemized list until after the money's spent.
Well, that's
And
generally how that works. You know,
that's something we're looking to change statewide. So something that I'm not really, because it's happened in other schools too. Like there was $1 million missing from, I think, Epsom or something. We found $50,000 in gift cards to Amazon, I believe, around the Salem area. And there's just been so much that has come to light that we're trying to fix. In essence, we're kind of coding
at the end of the
our
year.
stuff.
Yeah, they need to be
being fiscally
reviewed
responsible
by somebody.
Yeah.
Who do they get reviewed by?
Yeah.
How many TVs do we have in classes? Does each kid have an iPad? Like, how? Who knows?
Yeah, but does each kid need an iPad? Is the other thing,
No,
you know?
I don't know.
No, I mean it's the same thing when it comes to Chromebooks and all the electronics that are within the schools. It's taking away from the teacher's ability to teach the kids the curriculum when they're just sitting behind a screen all day playing Frogger as a math game. You know, like where's the actual adding, subtracting, handwritten paper? You know, stuff like we used to do when we were kids, and we had way better education than it seems like we're being provided today.
I would hesitate to agree with you only because I don't attend schools now, but I do know that they don't include things like the minutia of the alphabet like we did, writing and that sort of thing.
If it helps, I have had parents and teachers as well as students throughout the state reach out to me since I've been very vocal, one of which was yesterday. And I can't list who they are because they're afraid that they're going to get fired.
Fine.
For out, like providing information and stuff, but I have a lot of information that is backed up by reputable sources. I'm trying to play the bipartisan role. I don't want to be partisan. I don't want to be pushing views on either side. I just want academic success so our proficiency scores can rise.
Yeah, and I'll quickly add that a lot of what we are trying to set our students up for is success in whatever they choose to pursue. And most jobs don't use pen and paper anymore. So being able to be tech literate is a kind of a fundamental skill that we want our students to have regardless of what they pursue. And taking a tour is really, if you haven't done that, that's a great way to get into the classrooms and kind of see how things are being used.
Tell us about that. How does that work if somebody wanted to do that?
Oh, yeah. So if you want to, again, public schools, your money goes. And so we love having people take tours of the schools. And so the best way to do that is, I mean, if you're a parent, you can get in touch with your administrator. If you're not sure where to start, you can always reach out to the superintendent. We started, the school board, we started doing walks this year that include teachers and parents and community members and school board members, and they're called focus walks. So you get a topic to kind of, so that you're not just kind of wandering around, you get a topic to think about. And so we plan. And so you kind of go in and you chat about what you see. So you go into multiple classrooms and then you kind of debrief after to kind of, what did you see? What didn't you see? And so you can kind of see the different applications across the schools.
That's great.
And that. Yeah. So there are links coming out for that. We get them posted either on Facebook or on the website or something like that. But reaching out to the superintendent is always a great place to start.
Excellent. Okay.
He does respond. He's like, we've been coordinating a time to get together, but of course last week I had to go to Nashville, so like we weren't able to schedule the time. We had to reschedule, so it'll be this week sometime. I have a lot of questions.
And if you don't have a child in school, his name is Dan Legalo. I can put his information in the show notes, so you can reach out to him if you're interested and you're not a parent like me. That would be interesting to see because it's been a long time since I've been in school.
Yes, same.
So you kind of also answered this. How is Franklin going to be impacted by open enrollment? We don't really know until it happens. And what do you plan to do in response? Not that you can do much about it, but yeah, I think
I can explain
Liz,
the reasoning for me wanting open enrollment and being okay with the idea of open enrollment across the state. A couple reasons. I mean, do you want me to go first or her go first?
You seem to want to go first, so go for it. You got it on your tongue.
All right.
Do it up.
So for me, open enrollment, it's a deep stemming. So it would take probably about an hour for me to describe the entirety of why. So I'll just kind of try to keep it short and simple. And if anybody wants to get more information, they're free to reach out to me. You can find my information on Facebook or even just the state website. And I will always communicate with everyone regardless. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, just trying to keep it simple here. I don't feel like when you have a society where you're forcing students to attend a specific school and there's no other options unless you're going to pay, $50,000 for, outside help, for instance, or have to not work a job to stay home and teach your kid because, whatever. Politics can get into the classrooms, and they have taken over our school system throughout the entire state. And DEI has been like the biggest push right now, but a few years ago it was CRT. And then you had the BLM movement, where people were getting days off to go and protest, and white kids were being taught they were racist just because they were white, even though they've never experienced racism in their life. And black people were being taught that they were minorities just because they were born black. It's that type of ideology shouldn't really be in a classroom. It should be more, everyone is loved. We are all who we are, regardless of political beliefs, sexual orientation, religion, whatever. We love you for who you are. We accept you for who you are, but not glorifying it. Keep the sexual stuff in sex ed and then out of the classrooms. Like when I walk into a school and the first thing I see are pride flags and pins on every single teacher's and staff's shirts. As I'm going through the halls, they got trans flags across the board, and we got pride carts in classrooms. And that becomes an issue with me because that's glorifying an ideology that's not based by fact data. It's just an ideology, right?
Whether you agree with it or not, it's something
exactly.
that is of the home for to do, maybe not for the school
Exactly.
to be teaching.
Like
not
imagine if
traditional school curriculum anyway.
Yeah. Like imagine if the far right side of the aisle wanted to hang up the 10 commandments and try to teach the gospel in classrooms, and in the halls everyone was wearing cross pins and stuff. Some people might take offense to that, especially if they weren't religious or didn't believe in it. So my goal is not to go down that side and take away one and push another. I want just acceptance of everybody. We are all here on this earth together, regardless of our beliefs. We shouldn't hate one another. If a guy wants to put on a dress and be a girl, so be it. Good for him, her, whatever she wants to identify by. I don't have an issue with that. My issue is,
as long as it fits school dress code, which apparently
it's all super short dresses. So I know that's a common misconception, because when people hear my beliefs on it, at first they think I'm some like right-wing fascist who hates trans, and that's not true. I work with the trans community. And I even have members of the trans community saying, well, kids shouldn't transition until after 18. Their bodies aren't developed, nothing but health issues. And I'm trying to support them in that. Some of them are saying like 25 and plus. Like, I can't, you're legal adult at 18. That's how it should be.
In summation, kind of what you're saying is topics that are not factual or part of school curriculum should probably stay outside of the school.
It should stay left at home. I mean, if you have a kid that identifies as trans in a classroom, we just treat everyone the same. We all love each other. We're all the same.
By the teachers and the staff, I think we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Like I have a couple of students who came up to me saying on a first day of school, they're given a list of pronouns to circle on what they want to identify by. I mean, that's confusing. I know. To me, that's unacceptable. That's pushing ideologies in classrooms. And that happened in Laconia. So
that's interesting.
It's more, when I mention keeping politics out of schools, that's what I mean. And I feel that if we don't do that, then more parents are going to push and push and push to remove their kids from public school. And I will back them on it because I think it's unacceptable.
Which is really difficult, I think, Brian, because the people like Liz, they're voted on by our political base of people. Like, they're voted on by our constituents, which is a political thing.
The right side of the aisle doesn't come out for midterms, and they don't come out for school board or city council. They usually only ever come out for presidential. So it's something that we've been working on, is trying to get more people involved and get them to understand that, to fix these issues, that you start at the ground and then you work your way up. You can't just get a state rep position or a Congress position and magically fix everything at once. It's a community effort, So it's little things I'm trying to help with. But as to Franklin specifically, we don't have all of that extreme stuff going on in Franklin. Like, we don't have, to my knowledge, we don't have porn in the libraries, right? But we do in other schools. And I have proof of it, and I've shared proof of it. I've gotten death threats because I've shared proof of it. I still get them today. I just had one about an hour and a half ago.
Yes, I have seen people's response to that. Let's try to keep it on topic about Franklin being impacted by open enrollment.
That's my
Hopefully
reasoning
it's
for the school choice. I just figured I'd.
planning to do in response. Liz, do you have, you mentioned something about the Opera House. I think that would definitely affect open enrollment. Do you have anything else that you think?
Well, I would be remiss because I have to say that I got a little confused just then, I think, because if things aren't fact, then they shouldn't be in the schools. The fact is that trans people exist and
I'm not
they're
saying they don't.
people and they're humans. So just like if you're religious, you bring your religion into the schools, which there are policies that kind of protect it's protected speech, so people can do that. But yeah, so trans people are fact because they are humans and they exist. And I think what's interesting, I'm getting a little cognitive dissonance because we want the idea of that everyone is loved, that we're here on earth together. That's equity. That's inclusion. What you're describing is that you want everybody to be included. So then when I hear talking about this dreaded acronym of DEI, if you're against that, you're saying you want to be against people, you want non-equitable spaces, and you want to exclude people. You want to be allowed to exclude people. And that's not what you're saying. And so it's just it's kind of frustrating that to experience that cognitive dissonance based and saying on one hand everyone's loved, but if I don't like who you are, you need to not be, I need to not see you, and I need to not hear you, and I want to exclude you.
I think I have an answer for this. By putting up banners and posters for any one particular thing, you are thereby excluding everyone else.
That's
and saying
bonkers.
In a school?
I think that's
so
I
you're going to put up
agree
a
with that
banner for
point.
every religion at school
They don't.
or every sexual orientation at school? What I think what he's saying is that we're not excluding anyone. We're not promoting
anything.
anyone.
Yes,
this
correct.
is the whole thing of like by saying X lives matter, it doesn't mean that other lives don't matter. It's a whole thing of like it's representation. If you want to wear a pin of whatever you want to wear, like you can do that. I mean, this is, again, we're getting back to like individual choice. This isn't also happening. If you walk around the schools, they're not plastered with flags of anything. I mean, there's the state flag, which we're required to have, and the American flag. So we, of course, have those, and we say the Pledge of Allegiance just like everyone else, which also has under God in it, which is strange. But it's not. The rooms aren't riddled with things. School is a place for kids to learn and ask questions and figure out who they are and exist as they exist. And that's kind of more what happens.
So as long as it's diverse and equity and inclusive, as long as it's not something that includes violence of that sort of nature, the children are allowed to express themselves however they like.
Yes, just like adults are.
So if it helps, I've had 3 different teachers, one from the middle school, 2 from the high school, reach out to me and send me pictures from pride flags that were being hung, not just the standard rainbow, like the whole trans flag and everything, that were being hung in classrooms. Some students got upset about that, and they were silenced by their principals. So
why were they upset about it?
Because they didn't associate with it, they didn't like it, they didn't agree with the ideology behind it, and they
want to exclude that person for existing?
Because they're a straight white heterosexual individual. They got excluded and denied and treated like garbage. So,
but they want to exclude.
What we mean by we want to keep. And no one's saying excluding trans individuals. We all know that trans individuals.
Well, they're not allowed to have their flag out.
Just like I'm not allowed to have a Jerusalem flag walking down the hall of a classroom, right?
You absolutely are, though. Why would you not be?
Entirely.
Why would you not be allowed to do that?
We can agree to disagree on certain things, but when I say I have a lot of parents and teachers and students even that I've sat down with and had discussions with, there are more people that are not on board with what is going on, which is the reason for all of these changes. And I understand all of them. And I've spoken with trans community who even think it's too much. Like when teachers on first days of school are handing information like, what are your pronouns? They're setting that stage immediately. You might see it as a sign of respect, where the other side might see it as a sign of disrespect. You're pushing something upon society, and that's where we have the difference.
You have pronouns. You do. I don't want to alarm you.
That's it. If
This
I
goes
go to
back
get
to
a
the point
job,
where
no one's going to care if I'm
education is key. This is
So I will
continue educating.
end this portion of the topic just to say, as a heterosexual white female, I often felt excluded and made fun of, and I'm pretty sure that pretty much every teenager and child in school feels excluded or made fun of at some point during the day.
regardless
That's just
of what they
bound to
are.
happen with kids.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
But it's not just the LGBT thing. It's the glorification of any political agenda. Every couple of years, it is a new push for something. And it's a matter of just keeping that entire agenda away from classrooms. That's the
I would have
entire
to see
thing I'm
it
trying to make.
to believe it. Honestly, I would have to see it to believe it.
I know.
I could see
haven't gotten
students
that.
with other students. As far as the teachers go, I hope that's not the case. So EFAs, first off, I don't know what they are. So could you tell me what EFAs are and how do they work and how are the
Sure.
Franklin students impacted? Liz, you go first this time.
Okay. EFAs, educational freedom accounts. They operate like vouchers. And essentially it gives state money to families to send their children to private schools, charter schools, homeschools, etc., programs like that are not the public schools. And I like to describe them, EFAs are kind of like hiking in flip-flops. Being that it may seem like a good idea, it may seem really easy, like I don't want to buy new footwear, but really it's a little irresponsible and it can harm not only you, but also others around you. And I say that for a few reasons. So data has shown that universal voucher programs, they lower academic achievement for all students, even those who are making use of the vouchers. And I mentioned earlier, charter schools and private schools, they get to decide who goes to school. If you have money, they can still say you can't come if you have special needs. So it increases the disparity because, as we talked about, the state adequate funding is already inadequate, and increasing EFAs means that they need to allocate more money to that, which takes away money from the already inadequate funding. And the thing that I learned most recently is that it's actually mostly, a lot of it is an entirely new population that the state has to find money for. What I mean by that is that about 65 to 90% of the new students who are making use of the vouchers were already not in the public school system. So they were already not getting that money, and so they were already attending schools. So they were already fine. Now they're saying, I want state money. So now the state who says we can't fund things, we have to, we don't have the money, they now have to find money for all this new population. And so the Franklin students are impacted in that, just like we talked about earlier, that the money, we feel every student and every student's loss. So if the money goes with them, not only is it perpetuating inequities that already exist, it's kind of leaving our students behind, and it's just causing problems. And our students deserve, all of our students deserve to have a good education. And the way to get that is not by saying you get to do this and you don't because your test scores aren't high enough. It's to come together as a community and as a whole district and say, we're going to do what's best for all of you, and we're going to work together and pool our funding into this so that we can all succeed.
So just to repeat back to you what I understand, EFAs come from the same pool of funding provided by the state, correct? So it takes money from that same pool.
Yeah.
And it is allowed to be used towards students for like homeschooling or if they're going to private school, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What funds that entire pool? State? I mean, we don't have state income tax, but
the local municipalities property taxes have to make up that. They make up the shortfalls, and inconsistent variable federal funding that they can then take away. And
Yeah.
You might be talking about the shortfalls in the local schools if they were to receive one, but once again, if a student was to take an EFA and they were to either use it on a private school or for homeschooling purposes, an EFA is not a voucher, by the way. A voucher is you're given a free reign to do whatever you want with it. These EFAs are regulated for one, for two. You also have to pass one of three testing in order to qualify for the following year. Just like if you're homeschooling, you still have to pass testing to keep going, right? To pass from like one grade to another. But this is to even qualify for the next set of funds for the following year. And there's like one of three testings that go along with it.
So it's dependent on the student's academic ability.
Success.
Entirely.
Yes.
To use the EFA.
Correct. Now, charter schools are full public schools. So any student, like I myself have my two children in charter school based off what they were going through within the public school system. And I saw a major difference within like 3 months of their learning. It was incredible to see the difference. And it sucks to say that because I would love to see that in the public system, which is why I'm trying to fix the public system so we can make that happen. We wouldn't need EFAs if we didn't have all this extra minutia going on. That's my big thing.
I think the big thing too is it gives the opportunity for homeschooling for the taxpayers, for sure. So the state recently expanded access to the EFAs. Maybe you can tell us more about the expansion, what that's based on, and if it's had an impact on Franklin itself. I don't know if you guys must keep track of that because I certainly don't.
I mean, we had within the first 48 hours, I think something like 2,000 new signups, and now we're over 10,000 signups for EFAs throughout the entire state. So we're seeing some huge success there, and I want kids to succeed in any way possible. Now, who's to say if I wanted to, let's say, teach my kids reading, writing, and math in my own way and added history, let's say I want to teach them Chinese, something that most public schools don't offer. Should I be limited in my ability to do that because the state tells you, no, this is how you should teach your kid. This is what you need to, have them pass this. I find that to be a little ridiculous. I mean, there are some people that are using EFAs to even like buy a fishing pole, and teach their kid how to fish, life skill. Stuff like that. I find that to be kind of interesting. As long as they're passing their testing and they stay under budget, to me, I'm okay with it for now. Once again, if we can get the public schools fixed, that's a different story, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, Liz, tell us your take on the EFAs, if you would.
Yeah, so the why, I mean, I can only speculate, and I can only say that there are inequities, and if you are a poor family and you receive that EFA, there's a chance that you still might not be able to make up the difference. And so you might not actually be able to get the education that you want for your child. And again, private schools don't have to take anyone they don't want to. And so it kind of just feels like a way to leave a lot of the population of Franklin behind, which is people who may be struggling, may have a history of struggling, maybe trying to really just kind of grow and do what's best for them. But now they're saying that, we don't have any faith in your public schools. And so we're going to pay people to go elsewhere. And the almost half of our students that receive some type of special education services, we're just going to, you're going to have to deal with them, which it's like, yes, we want to, but we want to deal with all of our students. And what we want is people to understand that direct and sustained investments in public schools yield larger and intergenerational opportunity, which means that if you want your kids to succeed and have a better life than you, the best way to do that is to support the community schools. The public schools were designed to be a public good that benefits everyone. It doesn't mean people get to pick and choose based on what they think is right. Parents are always free to teach their kids whatever they want. That's awesome. That's incredible. That's how you get the great diversity of community that we have. That's how you get those experiences. But there are also, it also does help to have people who know what they're talking about in terms of like learning and education and know all the research, and to be able to kind of share that and have a place where everybody can go to get an education and that nobody gets left behind. And they also don't have to jump through all these hoops to get crazy funding to do it.
I'd be curious to know how long EFAs have been a thing. It says here the basic qualifications are you have to be at least 5 years old and no older than 20, entering kindergarten through 12th grade. Your family's income is at or below 350% of the federal poverty guidelines. Then you're prioritized along with current EFA recipients, siblings of EFA recipients, and students with special needs. But it says that you're not eligible if you attend public school. So you can't use an EFA if you're attending public school. You're prioritized if you're a current recipient, if you're siblings of a current recipient, if you have special needs, and students with families with an income at or below 350%. So it seems like it's prioritized more for special situations rather than necessarily allowing kids to go, or adults to choose where their kids go to school. It's very interesting.
So that's what it was prior. And I think it was it 5 or 10 years it's been in existence? I mean, I'm new in this legislature, so everything that happened before me, I'm still trying to kind of catch up on, all the bills and changes. I think it's been between like 5 and 10 years is when the first EFA came into existence. And what we just did this past term that we just got through with the budget was remove the entire eligibility cap. So anybody, regardless of who they are, or if they're just hindering on that 350%, can qualify.
So they no longer have prioritizations?
I would say prioritizations is they can qualify for an EFA to be able to receive funds. And then at the end of the year, they still have to pass the one of 3 types of testing to qualify for the following year.
So in a sense, this was umbrella-ly made to allow the taxpayers' dollar to move with their kid, essentially.
Wherever. And so it's also based off our Constitution, right? Our adequacy education goes for everybody, rich or poor alike. So per our Constitution, we have to provide education to everyone, regardless of whether or not you are rich or poor.
Where they choose to go. Yeah.
Wherever. And that's based right in New Hampshire Constitution. I did go over the Constitution when I got elected because I was very curious about what I was looking at. It's
I
all new
would
stuff
be
to me,
curious to see what the testing levels were like for the EFA students. It'd be interesting to follow this since it's kind of newer.
Sure. I can grab some info for you too.
That would be good for people to know too. If people want to know more info, Liz, you have something to add?
No, I would also be interested to know how we're going to pay for it. If we already are saying that we don't have enough adequacy aid for regular public school students, and now we have a larger population of students coming in to get the EFAs, and the budget was what, 39 million, and it's gone up, and it could go to 45, and then as much as 127. So the cost keeps going up, but the state doesn't seem to have money to pay for it. So I'd be interested to see how that's going to go too.
To me, it sounds like in the future, public schools are going to be smaller, literally.
I'm hoping not. If what we're doing works, then I would like to see our public schools thrive. But the only way that's going to happen is by eliminating all wokeism from classrooms and all future political jargon from taking place.
I was thinking more on a cost basis. The fixed costs that Liz was talking about, the size of the building, that sort of thing.
They all tie in together though, right? And the reason for it is the more kids that are not in the public school, right, the less they get. So if we can incentivize parents to want their kids in public schools,
yes,
all these other options are needed. And that's
true.
What I'm trying to get accomplished. But, I'm once again being met with other side that doesn't want any changes, and they want to keep pushing ideologies down children's throats, and that's a problem.
If you can incentivize like it's a free market, right?
The logic of the way to fix public schools is by pulling children out of public schools. I think that might be a little confusing for people to grasp. So that's why part of the reason.
Almost a decade we've been trying to do this. And then back whenever a kid was masked in school and parents were coming home to their kids that had taped masks on their faces, which was a complete crap. I mean, this is when everything started to kind of hit the fan and parents rising up, and they were demanding school choice. And when you have stuff like that take over, it becomes a problem. And if no one wants to change and they want to keep doing that type of stuff, then there's going to be consequences, and that's what we're going to see. I don't want that to happen. I'm trying so hard. I've been working this entire year to see if I can save the public school system, fix it from within. But even the head of the teachers union said they're not going to comply with anything that we do. And every school board I've talked to is the same deal.
I will make a segue of that, saying who delegates what's allowed and what's not allowed in our school, who's in charge of that, over to our next conversation, which, Brian, I believe you put on the board, which is a good one. You mentioned it earlier, about people clearly misconstruing your concern, maybe. Is that's HB 324. First of all, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, please explain it. And then how could it impact Franklin? And then how does Franklin address the role of parental rights in public schools?
All right. So HB 324 is a bill that set up due process. So if a parent found material in their school library or in the classroom that they deemed was inappropriate for their child, then they could bring it up with the school board publicly. So it'd be a public forum, just like a regular school board meeting where people can have insight and communicate. And then that material would be reviewed publicly and deemed appropriate or not. Now,
by whom?
By the school board and the general public.
Okay.
So people would have a voice into it. Now, the reason this bill came forth is because we found literal porn in schools throughout the state. I know you're like, what? How the hell is that even possible? It is. There's graphic depictions of men on men, oral sex, women on men, oral sex, adult and child. I mean, it's bad. I had a parent send me a video that was about 2 minutes long. This book is gay. That was on the Sora app, and it had a hyperlink to Match.com talking about how to use anal beads and sex toys and set up sex apps. This is for children as young as 7 years old. I have a list.
Can I pause you for a second, Brian?
Sure.
I want to pause Brian for a second and make sure that you guys understand that this is not stuff that is coming to Brian as something that he wants to share with you as something that he enjoys. This is something that disturbs him, that he has found in the apps, which for me, I don't know what that is. I've never experienced it because we had real books, a real library. This is material that has been found on the public school reading app, just so everyone understands.
And in physical books within libraries.
There you go. And so this would give parents the option to have a due process, so to speak.
A due process, yes. So nothing would get banned. I mean, the other side of the aisle was screaming, it's a book banning bill, it's a book banning bill, we're Nazis, we're Nazis. That's not the case. Not a single book was going to get banned from this bill. Everything would have due process, just like our criminal system.
And to be clear, it's only about the books available to students in the school. It's not about our public library, correct? It's
not
just
public
our
library, no. Okay. School, just schools, just within schools that are taxpayer funded. And and that, to me, that was very important, especially with the material that I saw. It's graphic. I've shared some on Facebook, and I don't mind sending it to either of you guys if you want to actually see what I found and what our committee has found within our schools. I have a list of the schools. I have a list of books. I have images from said books. I mean, Representative Glenn Cordelli, he got shut down by the Democratic Party in the State House when he was just reading an excerpt from one of the books he found in a middle school, because it was too inappropriate to communicate about it in front of 400 adults on YouTube, but yet it's okay for our minors to view.
Was any of that in Franklin?
Where?
Was any of that in Franklin?
I haven't actually found any books that are like sexual graphic in that nature in Franklin. The worst I found was like what my kids went through, which was just books about unicorns identifying as narwhals or narwhals identifying as unicorns, something like that. And then a trans coloring page from, I don't know, one of the books they came home. It was like just trans pirates. You know, it was like the worst that I saw in Franklin.
Liz, you have some background in book publishing, no?
I was an editor for an educational publisher. Yeah, I was.
Okay. I guess the good question is, I mean, I don't know how this stuff works in schools. How is it received? How it's entered? Does it work different in every school?
The way things come in, so we actually have a policy about that. So there's a policy. So I would say, God, like 95% of our policies come from the New Hampshire School Board Association. They originate there, which is the body that sends out sample policies for all districts to review. And there are ones that are priority required by law, so obviously we adopt those. There are recommended ones that we most often adopt, and then sometimes we make adjustments or specify things for our district, and then there are optional ones that we take a look at and discuss as a board as to whether or not we want to adopt it. And actually, library material selection and adoption is a policy. So there is a policy regarding that. All of our policies are available on the district website, sau18.gov. Gov now. But so HB 324, it's a little not topical anymore because it was vetoed by the governor. But in part of the reason is that, so I have a list of 12 individual policies that cover what was in that bill.
Yeah.
Everything from specific parental objections to course material. So the reason why some people think it's redundant is due process. It already exists in those public schools, and it's been established through policy. The parents, if they object, they work with the administrators, the district, the school board, and identify. If it's in classrooms, we identify an alternative so that students can still get an education. But if they're everything, and if they find something, it gets mediated. It gets mediated. Still not one-on-one, not in a shady ceremony. There's still due process, and we find a way to work around it. But we have everything from health education, teaching about alcohol, drugs, and tobacco, self-protection, home education instruction, student progress reports, student district internet access. So these are already things that are in place that are available for everybody to take a look at, to read through. We review them regularly. There are legislative updates twice a year that we go through, but then we also regularly try to review all of the hundreds of policies to make sure that everything is operating as it should be. And so what I like about it is it actually gives more control. We fully believe, and the more parents are involved in their children's education, the higher levels of retention and achievement they achieve. So the more parents are involved, we want that. We love it. The parent-teacher conference nights, when all the parents come in, it's our favorite. We love having conversations with our parents about their children because they spend you go to school and then you go
Their
and
life
spend time
there.
you spend time with your guardians. You spend time with your parents and guardians. So we want to have that partnership. We want to hear what people are saying. So this bill was odd to me because it seems like it actually was kind of wanted to allow one parent to make decisions for all the other parents and like all the other students by saying like, let's go through this due process. I object to this, therefore nobody else should have access to it. And that feels kind of fundamentally wrong. It feels like, hey, you should be able to make a decision for yourself, for your child. You should be able to have these conversations and kind of go through with that.
I guess my question is, are the individual parents allowed to log into their child's SOAR app and block publications? That would be something that would easily solve this. It sounds like it's not a problem in Franklin, which is really wonderful that you guys have it under wraps. Alexa, stop. My apologies.
You said a word. You said a word that triggered her.
So she definitely just stated a lot. So I kind of want to rebuttal on a couple of those as we continue down this path. When you mentioned the governor veto, she actually never opened any of the material that we provided for her. She wanted nothing to do with it, didn't want to see it or anything.
Yeah.
Same idea about local control, right? Keeping the local control in those policies. The problem is it's still happening in like 34 different schools throughout our state. We have graphic depictions of porn and pedophilia in school libraries, and nobody seems to bat an eye. And the parents who tried bringing it up, we had a couple of parents even go to the police in Goffstown, where 2 of the books were found. And the police said, we can't do anything about it. You got to go to your school board. They went to the school, talked to the principal, talked to the superintendent, got denied, got rejected, hence why the bill came forth. We had testimony of SB 33. SB 33 was another remake of HB 324, just the Senate version. And we had more testimony from more parents who found more material in their schools. So we might be doing something right in Franklin where we actually have policies in place that block that material and we actually don't allow it. But there are other schools out there who are worse and they are doing it. And
So
kids are
what we could
you're seeing a
maybe do,
7-year-old see a graphic picture in a book of 2 kids having sex or oral sex between 2 men. You know, I have it on my phone right here that we found in 34 different schools.
would it be reasonable to
to me,
assume
that's
that
an
maybe
issue.
Franklin could reach out to these communities and say, hey, these are the policies and the procedures that we use that are proven to work? Because it's one
But
thing
it's
to,
if they don't
write the
adopt
wheel
it,
from
they
the
don't
start,
adopt it.
but if you
You know,
could just reach out and say, hey, this works for us, try it.
if they don't adopt it, though, they don't adopt it. I
That's
mean, this
true.
bill would literally put protections in place in case we had a pedophile on our school board who wanted to sexualize children. They could be outed by voting in favor of keeping porn in school for minors. And now that bill obviously died, so we will be bringing it back next year, but this time with a hell of a lot more publicity.
So you're
I'm going to be
hoping for
fighting
some more
against every
state control over what is in the schools rather than having each
keeping
school
sexually
having
graphic
control.
stuff away from 7-year-olds. Yes. That's the point. I don't care about 2 moms and 2 dads in a book you're reading about how, there are 2 moms in this house, there are 2 dads in this house. That's not the issue. The issue gets in when you're actually looking at porn on paper that kids are not used to, and they're seeing it for the first time. Like I have a picture here where it's a girl eating another girl out, and it says, this tastes so good. Like, how is that educational for a child? And why the hell is that in an elementary school where it was found?
So our state library is in control. Like, in general, we have a New Hampshire State Library, right, that controls all of our library stuff. Whereas in the school boards, it sounds like we don't have a state regulated anything. Is that correct?
It's
to an extent.
Yeah.
But with this stuff, I don't know how the hell it slips through the cracks. It's because it's not considered, porn, because it's a graphic novel. It's not like an actual picture that was taken of 2 individuals. It's drawings, and they're like detailed drawings. I mean, I will send them to you after, but they are on my Facebook.
I have seen the ones that you shared with me.
Yeah.
I think this sounds like it's more of a fight for the communities that are struggling with it.
Yes.
But if
Franklin
if you want to bring it to a state level, that is certainly your choice, of course.
Yeah, that's my passion. As to Franklin, I haven't. To your guys' point, I haven't found anything within the Franklin schools. I haven't even heard anything from any of the students or teachers about the porn in our schools here. So I can say absolutely, congrats, yes. Let's keep up that good work. When it comes to,
you're free to bring your kids to our public schools.
Yeah.
Kids.
So I can say I'm very grateful for that, but there are so many other schools, unfortunately, that do, and they're even worse than you can imagine. And that is my fight. My fight isn't with Franklin. My fight is representing Franklin for the entire state. Gotcha. So I don't want to do anything that's going to destroy Franklin. I want to do things that are going to help us all succeed.
All right, last topic. And this is a big topic, and it always has been. I might have to mute myself and let you guys talk it out. Drugs. What is Franklin doing to keep it kids safe and drug free? And then how are the schools, including Franklin, affected by the opioid epidemic? So Liz, if you want to take this for like 5 minutes or whatever, and then hand it over to Bryan, I'm going to go take care of my in live guest here in my home. Okay.
Your dog just really has important things to say. Like they're really passionate about this topic. So I think it's a great topic to end on, because I think we have perfect alignment on it, honestly, because
I think we do too.
So Franklin has been disproportionately impacted. We have all heard the stories. We've all heard the reputation, and what the good that's come out of that is that we have forged, and in the district and in the city, we've forged partnerships. There are so many great professional development things on how to keep our kids safe, how to spot issues. So we've had so many great professional development opportunities, training opportunities. We've been able to pursue federal grants to help with these things, to help get our kids where they need to be. We've created positions to proactively support our populations. So that's how we've been affected. And that's kind of also what we're doing to keep the kids safe. We used to work with Partners in Prevention. They're being phased out along with the Mayor's Drug Task Force, which is unfortunate, but we still have school wellness coordinators. We have our guidance and other support teams. We have, again, a lot of policies that are priority required. So they're required by law about kids interacting with drugs and how to keep kids drug free, how to keep the schools drug free, how to kind of handle all of that and just make sure that the kiddos are safe in schools. We have things in the handbooks. We do data tracking. I think one of the most powerful things we do is the YRBS, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. We listen to our students. And so we're not just speculating. We're not just like thinking like, hey, this might be an issue because historically it has been. We are getting information from our students about what they're concerned about, what they're dealing with. And we are thankfully still able to kind of to make moves. It's getting tighter and tighter with the budget of being able to take action to help our kids and support them, but we are listening to them. We're getting that data and we're pursuing the avenues to help our students. And because again, if you help the students, you help the community. Our schools are integral to the community and the community is integral to our schools. And so like we are just really excited about all of the challenges we've had to go through because in a way I think we have been able to be so innovative and just kind of roll with the punches, and we're excited to continue fighting through research, education, advocating for our students, advocating for our schools at all levels, to kind of just make sure that we keep moving in the right direction for our kids and Franklin.
Excellent. I love to hear about the YRBS to find out what's really going on in homes. That is a big gap sometimes with students.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but what kept me from drugs is this is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
The egg.
Yeah.
The egg.
Yep.
The egg
And
commercial.
you know, the scary movies, like what they look like on drugs, and the Hallmark movies. So, Bryan, how about you and the kids and the drugs, and how are we doing with that?
Let me try to put it in perspective here. So we are, in essence, Franklin is in essence the drug central of New Hampshire. We have all the methadone clinics and all the assistant tools, all the programs for rehabilitation. So we bring in people from everywhere to help get them clean. The problem is we're also bringing in the dealers because they see it as a clientele. So that's another struggle. Now, I've spoken with partners in prevention and I've tried working with them a little bit to see what we can do. The last thing we want to do is shut all these programs down and like send it off to someone else to deal with. That is not the right approach. Right? That's not the right approach. I think what we're doing is phenomenal. We should keep it up. Unfortunately, we're just the community that, you know, started these programs way back when, but I also see a positive in it. There's a lot of effort, but we're getting a lot done. As to keeping drugs away from schools, I love the fact we're getting a resource officer.
That's
I mean, that's huge. I mean, when I found out that we had drugs in our middle school, I was like, what the hell just happened? Like I was mind blown to hear what it was and all the other stuff that was going on. But now we're going to have a resource officer that's going to be able to assist. So I'm very, very excited about that, to see what the next step of that process is going to be. As to fixing our society with our drug issues, to be honest, I think that we're doing a great job. I don't know how much better we could be doing.
Yeah.
I just think we need to keep it up. And I'm hoping that these guys turn the other cheek and say, you know, I really do want to change my life. I don't want to be down this never ending path. You know, they've had friends and family members who have died from it. Like I think probably close to 30 people I graduated with have died from drug overdoses, one of which was drugs and then got hit by a train, but that was a different story. It sucks and it's sad. You know, people you grow up with and you see graduate high school, and like a year after you graduate, you know, you're 18 years old and then they just OD and die. It sucks. And how else can you try to help someone? You know, you can't just say it's not our problem as a community. We can't do that. I mean, that was my first thought when I looked at this. I said, you know, this is, you know, we could send them to Concord and, you know, not have to have drugs flooding through here, but that's a bad approach. You know, now all these people are helpless. You know, I think what we're doing is good. We need to keep it up.
I like that. That's a lot more than they had when I was in school. I don't know how our school operates as far as like, there's one thing to have the drugs in the school, right? Of course. And then the kids maybe experience drugs outside of school or their friends. Peer pressure is a real thing. It's a real thing. Yeah. I want to be cool. So, you know, just to be,
or they find it in their home because their parents might have it. And then they're wondering like, hey, why are my parents, hooked on this? They look like they feel good. I want to try it and see. I won't get addicted. That mindset. And that's
maybe.
Well, that's what me smoking cigarettes way back when. It was the same idea. It's considered a drug, right? I was landscaping way back when, and because my mom smoked cigarettes, I was like, I wanted to feel what addiction felt like, and then I got hooked on nicotine for 20 years.
Oh, really? My mom made me smoke a cigarette, or she made me take a puff, and I almost died because I couldn't breathe, and I hadn't touched one since. So it was an awful experience.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Go ahead.
I was just say I hope. I don't know if the federal grant issue, I don't know if it's impacting this, but there's a really well-known, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there's a really well-known program that comes into the schools that we were pursuing, that comes really highly recommended, that we were pursuing for this upcoming year to just add another layer to that. And we were so excited because he's like the coolest guy who comes and talks about not doing drugs. So we're really excited about that. So that made me think that I'm going to follow up with that to hopefully make sure that is still happening, because that's another thing that
when I was a kid, we had Dare, right?
We had Dare. We still have Dare. I still have Dare gear somewhere on there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I just remember the horrific images that were showed to me of like different things, and I'm like,
or like your lungs when smoking in the black.
Just different stuff of how it affects your life and whatnot. I will say the programs available even for adults that are local and public, like you see them at the grocery stores, you see them in town if you go to the municipal building. And if someone wants help, they have it accessible to them. And that's the thing, is if they don't want help, there's nothing you can do.
But you still give them the treatment and they go back. It's about how do you change their mindset to make them want help and want to get better. And that is really, really hard to do.
And how do we intervene to make sure our kids don't have to start in that cycle? Because they see it. And how do we show them that there's another option and support them in that, and make sure that they feel safe enough in their school community that they can handle whatever happens outside of school, because they are getting what they need.
I'm taking you guys may not have grown up in a household that had substance abuse, but generally a lot of us, in my experience, is like, whoa, I don't want to do that. That's absolutely not. And as long as you give them an outreach for someone they can talk to, make it like an easy conversation and someone they can go to, I think that's wonderful.
That's such a good perspective. Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. That's
do we still have school counselors that know kids, like, or no?
Our goal is, and this is one of our, it ties into our portrait of a graduate work, is our goal is to have every student in the school have one adult that they feel connected to, that they can go to if they need something. That one-on-one direct support has been proven to be so beneficial for our students, and that is the model that we are striving for to achieve, so that they can go there. Fortunately, we still have our guidance counselors, we still have our school wellness coordinators who help directly with this. We have other support staff, and that for us, that is absolutely integral into keeping a public school running. And so we're going to do everything we can to keep that, because that's our goal, and that's what's going to help the kids. That's what the kids want. They want that community. They want to feel supported, and that's what we're working towards.
And to be kind and loving and caring to them, just out and about. I think too.
Yeah.
Okay, so that
awesome.
That wraps up our questionnaire subject topic thing here. If you guys both want to share with me your info, I will put it at the bottom for contact information. I really liked being a part of this conversation. I learned a lot. So hopefully those of you, thank you viewers that were viewing, learned a lot. Maybe you have more questions. Having questions is good. It means you want more information, right? And you care about your community. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and have a great week.
Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Trestle Times Talks from the Franklin Communications Group. Like, subscribe, and share to support local voices. And if there's news we should cover, our contact info is in the notes. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay Franklin Strong.